school, or is this to feed the community? I mean, I'm not clear about that.
Yeah, it's from what was explained earlier, it's a business incubator. So it trains people who are going to be in a business or provide space for entrepreneurs who are already in a business, who are in the catering business, for example, who don't have a commercial kitchen to use, that they could rent space there, use that at times to do their preparation for their catering.
Okay, that's fine. Who will come to this to eat? Will it be the homeless people?
No, I'm
Is
not
my
sure that's what
question.
the design of it is. I think maybe the applicant can address that a little bit better than we can, so we can, on rebuttal, they can have a chance.
Okay, because you know, we feed the homeless people a lot in our neighborhood, and those of us who live there, we do activities in our homes, and it's, you know, it's fine, but we don't need more.
Yeah, I don't think that's the goal of the incubator.
Okay, well, that's what I needed to know. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, Ms. Smith, is it to one of the people who was speaking?
No, it's to Mr. Sweeney.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sweeney, in the conversation when they've been up here, and they said they included now homeowners with historical sites there, were they notified of what they were?
Because this is a zoning application and we notify within 300 feet of the property.
Okay. The reason why I was asking, it seems as if they're not familiar what's going on in that area. And they homeowners, that's why I was asking.
And that's the reason why when we send a notice, as it was mentioned earlier, that there's a phone number, we explain what the project is, very briefly,
Okay.
and then they're supposed to call us if they have a question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Debbie Bryant. My address is 9640 Tammy Avenue in Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I also have the historic property on Austin Place, and my property is 728 Austin Place, which is the old Florentine Club, and I'm doing extensive renovation on that property as well. I work a second job just to restore that property. And to speak on the notification of this, we all got a letter on Saturday about this meeting, so we were not aware ahead of time to do any research on this. And I am in the healthcare profession. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm not totally against the culinary kitchen. I do understand the aspect, but I also understand that that neighborhood is in the historic district, and there are strict guidelines, and Liz Swain had been over a lot of those as far as what you can do to that property, what you can't do to that property, and I had to go through a lot of stipulations to do the renovation on my property and get approval with building permits for it to meet those guidelines. So I have a concern also with the LeBruns as far as the type of structure and building, because that whole block is in the historic district, and those are all historic properties, as well as it being across the street from the historic cemetery, which is one of the oldest cemeteries in Shreveport. So that's my concern. I'm not totally against it, but would definitely like more information as far as usage, structure, and those kind of things.
Well, just for the record, they won't be able, they'll be subject to the same requirements that anybody else who was coming in there would be subject to. So this is not a request for any kind of variance from what anybody else would have to do when it comes to what the place will look like. And those
Well, that's what I'm under the question, because the rest of us have to follow a historic.
There's no exception here.
So I would assume the building should have to look historic to fit into that neighborhood as well. That's just my question.
And in this situation, especially if being a historic district, we always, as the time comes when they actually submit a site plan application, which will include the renderings of the building, we typically, as a courtesy, will pass that to the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission, and ask for their input on sensitive properties like this to make certain that it does blend into the fabric of the neighborhood. So that's something that we're keenly aware of.
Okay. That's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Anybody else speak in opposition to this?
Billy Wayne, 6144 Farrington Court, Shreveport, Louisiana. Mr. Sweeney just addressed my question. The ramifications of this proposed project does have some historical ramifications. There are some historical ramifications in this. So in regards to that, I am a member of the HPC, and I was wondering, had any contact, I have not seen anything come through our commission that told us about this, but he just addressed that, because since there are historic ramifications, I would think that the HPC would have to take a look at this. Thank you.
Anybody else in opposition to this?
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Broussard. I live at 451 Santa Fe, Shreveport, Louisiana. I want to agree with Mr. Billy Wayne about the HPC, and it kept jumping out when I've listened to the people talk about have they been contacted at the beginning of this process. And then I've heard some ladies ask about the zoning, and the point that jumped out to me was, is this set in stone? We're going to be voting on the zoning and the use. Well, it seems like the process is not going to be finalized until a final site plan is determined by Mr. Sweeney. So I think we're, again, getting the cart before the horse, in that if you're going to have a site plan, that needs to be what is in front of y'all before you vote on zoning and stuff, because ultimately these plans, from what I have learned, are conceptual plans, and that until the final plan is submitted, then they can change. Those plans can change. And so I think it speaks to a bigger issue before the council. And finally, that in terms of hours of operation, I heard an applicant here recently set their own defined limits of operation, and that was accepted as being the hours that would be part of the plan. So, y'all can, or the applicant can set where's the applicant? The applicant can set her own hours of operation that may be at 9 o'clock versus 12. Is that correct? No? So what is the rule?
ZBA determines hours of operation outside of what is allowed by the basic zoning district. So if they wanted to stay open till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they'd have to go to ZBA and make application.
Well, I heard a gentleman stand up here before and say he was going to close his hours of operation at 9 o'clock.
Well, they can close it
Thank
earlier.
you.
They can always
They can
close
close
early.
early.
And that's what I said,
It's
is
not a-
that
But
she
it's not
can
imposed.
self-impose
Mr.
that, or
Broussard.
say, I'm willing to close earlier.
Let me say that a person can close anytime they want to, they just can't close
Right.
after a particular time.
Well, I
And so that's
agree.
that's within the parameters. Our issue is, as long as it's within the parameters prescribed in whatever the zone is,
Right.
which the law dictates, then the person is not setting hours, they are following what is already prescribed in that particular law.
And that's the point. I think somebody could have said, you can close earlier. B12 or B2 says you can stay open till 12, but you can say, I will close earlier. And then if that becomes part of the final document, are they bound by that?
No, that's in the
No,
zoning
they
ordinance.
have a right.
That's not part of the site plans.
Right.
Okay, so the other things that y'all have approved recently, if they chose to stay open until 12 o'clock, they could too?
If the
That's
zoning
the
district
zone.
allows it to.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes,
for
ma'am.
Mr. Broussard. I hear your point on the zoning versus the site plan, and you'd like to know, I respect that. I think the reason why you don't actually require someone to put an official site plan together, if they don't have their zoning, it's a big cost for architects and engineering and all that to do this site plan. Therefore, if you don't have your zoning, why would you do the cost of a site plan? That's why you see a lot of conceptual drawings. So that's probably,
Well, I think a final site plan was used in a recent vote to influence elected officials, a final site plan that had been submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Mr.
Smith?
Broussard,
Did you have a question for him?
Huh?
You have a question for him?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's good to see you.
Oh, I'm
And
here
I
to
wanna
talk.
say, the Bible saying all thy getting, getting understanding, and I know that you have comprehend. It depends if it's B1, B2, or B3. It's a certain time they can close.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr.
Hold on,
Colvin?
Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Sweeney, I think he is correct that we have had cases that we made it a step, that the applicant agreed to close earlier than the B3 times, and that was part of our approval.
Yes, sir.
I can't speak to that because never had one since I've been here.
I believe
But
it was in the
but
last
just
year
a
and a
sec- Just a second. ZBA handles hours of operation.
I understand that.
So MPC can't impose hours of
But the
operation.
neighbors at this particular case, I can't remember off the top of my head.
And again, I'll just
Explain.
reiterate, that is a ZBA requirement. That's not through MPC.
What if we did?
MPC cannot set hours of operation.
And I'm gonna go back to one more, and I hate to put us on the spot here, but as he said about seeing the rendition of it before it's approved, we made others do that also.
Yes, sir.
One specifically was the Kroger's, that we had a book about that thick, about 12 or 15 revisions before we approved that case.
That was a
So,
And that was through a planned unit development, which is a
Yeah.
different animal.
It's a
Sounds
different
like a lot of
Everything that
confusion.
comes here is not the same. So I want us to make sure that we don't mix apples and oranges. Everything we do is not the same, and we're directed by what the law says based on the type of zone. If
That's
PUD is different, then it's something different. So it's not one standard. Sorry that it's not, that may not float the boat, but at the end of the day, we don't have one single standard that which we go by. So I'm not sure if it makes any sense to anybody. I'm just saying that's what we are held responsible to go by. So I hope that, I don't know if it answers the question, but I hope that speaks for what it is that we are supposed to do.
Well, I mean, again, I hear what the MPC says, and then I hear about what the UDC is supposed to do, and I think it was supposed to answer a lot of these questions, but I see all kinds of amendments being added to alter it before it's even approved. So there's some concerns about what's going on in this body. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you for coming. Mr. Young?
I don't want to belabor this and we can move on, but I believe under the UDC, hours of operation will disappear.
That is correct. The market will set the hours of operation.
Market will set it. I just want to make sure that was out there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And the applicant is free to to offer any rebuttal at this time.
We certainly understand the concerns of individuals who live in the proximity of where this facility will be. First of all, let me assure you that the Department of Community Development has already requested a review of the proposed use of the property from the State Office of Historic Preservation, and that is already underway. It is not possible to do a complete review without a copy of the design, but as one of your members already stated, it's not possible to spend grant money on getting architectural designs for a project that you don't have the zoning for. So, unfortunately, that's not possible. However, what is already part of our plan process, because when you are using funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, you have to do due diligence to be sure that you comply with all state and local regulations regarding the use of that property. The request for a determination from the SHPO, a SHPO review, is one that's already been requested. Another is we've done a Phase 1 environmental review. The process includes, as the selection of this project did, a public participation process in which, and it is in our application to HUD for the resources, a commitment to produce a facility that is compatible with the neighborhood. What that means is we're not going to put a spaceship-looking structure, or we're not going to propose a spaceship-looking structure into a historic neighborhood. We've already had conversations with the architect. Southern has procured iArchitecture. They are working on a site plan with MPC staff. We have already talked to the architectural firm about ensuring that we have something that is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and that's always a key goal with community development resources of any kind. We also plan to have something of a public input process where we have some alternative styles of design, that we get input from the neighborhood on what they prefer. And that was discussed in a meeting with Southern University and iArchitecture as recently as yesterday. That is all part of the process. It's not something that, for one thing, you're talking about property that's owned by the city, and it's a project that's going to be operated and developed by a university. Nobody's going to be applying for a liquor permit. The city's not going to apply for a liquor permit. Southern University will not apply for a liquor permit. The event piece is not something that will happen on a regular basis. The projections for the first 2 years of operation, and it is primarily to the benefit of the entrepreneurs who are building their businesses so that they can cater receptions, wedding receptions, birthdays, and that sort of thing to help grow their business and build their businesses. It is expected to be more than 2 or 3 a month for at least the first 2 years. These folks will move on, hopefully, into separate business locations if they're successful. It is a vocational training facility. It's a small business development facility, and it is healthy eating, healthy foods, preparation, culinary medicine facility. It is not primarily a restaurant. Now, individuals in the neighborhood will be able to come down once it's fully operational and purchase what has been prepared in the kitchen for lunch. It has to be self-sustaining. It has to pay for itself. Those meals are not going to be given away. It's not a social service organization activity. They will be available for purchase. Folks who may want to pick something up and who work in a downtown office or who live up the street can come in and get something, or they can sit in that little patio area and eat it. But it is not intended to be anything of the nature of feeding the homeless. There are programs that feed the homeless in Shreveport, and there are programs for that. This is not in any way developed along that design.
Thank you. Any, Mr. Young?
Just, once again, I won't belabor this. When I originally looked at this project, I was pumped up that there's redevelopment going down in that area. After listening from the people in the area, I understand their concerns that there is an inordinate expenses put upon them because it's a historic area, and they have to go through those expenses in order to do the remodeling and the bringing up to code and bringing up to those standards and requirements. And I understand their concerns that when this is developed, that it is a complement aesthetically from the outside to the neighborhood.
Of course.
And I'm taking this personally of the other case that came up a while ago that I had to recuse myself from after I got 2 feet very deep into it, thinking that was going to be part of my neighborhood, and finding out I don't know if they're going to get free gas or not. And it brings up the same analogy. I mean, I just want to make sure that your project, and I understand this is federal dollars and this is, you're limited on budgets. Doing historical looking buildings, even working buildings, is expensive.
Yes.
And so to bring it just to the facade to be a complement to the neighborhood can be budget busters sometimes.
It can be.
And so,
Now,
it
won't look like a Victorian house.
As they redevelop
I mean,
the
like
neighborhood,
a Victorian mansion.
Right, it's not going to look like that. Because I'm looking at one of them. We have the ability to do Google.
Yeah.
Our staff is very good about giving us the ability. And it's a beautiful Victorian-looking house down there.
Of course.
I'm looking at it and drooling over it because it's so pretty. But But I appreciate the efforts y'all are doing. I really, really do. So I don't want to leave on the negative side. It's just, please do whatever y'all can to make it complement the neighborhood.
That is our intent, and that is our, it's part of our planned design to begin with. The architect has literally been driving around looking at neighborhood structures to find elements that can be reproduced in the design. We are not immune. I mean, we're not, just because it's a governmental and a university facility doesn't make us not accountable to the same property standards and design standards that anybody else building a structure anywhere in Shreveport would be. If anything, because of the funds being that from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, there's extra scrutiny that we comply with those things. We will not be able to spend these resources doing something that's not in compliance with local development, zoning, property standards, and the site planning process, and they're not going to give us a permit if we don't. So I understand the concerns. Understand that you don't want to end up finding yourself looking like, with something a half a block from your home, looking like a metal building motorcycle club. That's not at all what is planned, and we would never do that. We have the continuing input, and there are folks here who can attest to this, who have made the decisions in a collaborative process on what projects they want for their neighborhood, and who will be involved in picking what the facade design looked like. I've asked, unfortunately, I don't have any cards with me, but I asked one of the individuals to give me their information. I will personally contact each one of these folks and make sure that they're included in the process for looking at our proposed designs. I pledge that to you today. It's what we're supposed to do. It's part of the neighborhood revitalization effort that we're engaged in.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Andrews?
Mr. Chairman, are we at a point for
Yes, sir.
discussion and or motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move motion for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Mr. Young to approve. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. Thank you. It passes unanimously. Thank you. And that is the end of our public hearing. Item number 27, other business, master plan implementation report. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, sir. Just wanted to inform as I have already previously sent out notice about this to the board, that the proposed additional amendments to the Unified Development Code that have been discussed with the City Council and have also been addressed to the Parish Long Range Committee. They have, through the legal process, asked that these specific additional amendments be taken back to the MPC board for their review and consideration. We have established February the 8th at 3 p.m. in this council chamber as the date and the time in which we will hold that public hearing and that public meeting. You'll have it open so that you can receive comments from the public, and then the body will be asked to approve those amendments. So just to clarify, you're not having to re-vote on the UDC or the previous amendments that you made back in October the 18th. This will be strictly the amendments that are being brought back to you for your consideration on February the 8th. If you have any questions about those, please feel free to contact us this coming week, and anytime that you have a question or come by and visit with us. Would like to also mention that once this is considered by this body and then moved forward on, it will go to the City Council. I think based on the schedule, it'll probably show before the City Council the entire UDC with the amendments, with your recommendations, going to them on February the 28th. It would then be going to the Parish Commission for a vote on March the 9th. Now, that is the schedule as it stands right now. There's always variables that can change that, but that's just to let you know that's the pathway toward the ultimate approval and adoption of the Unified Development Code. I bear in mind, because we're sliding the schedule a little bit, bear in mind that that the implementation date for the proposed Unified Development Code, even if adopted by the 9th of March, would not go into effect until the 1st of May. And that will give us, the staff, enough time to train and get all the procedures and policies in place in preparation for the turn-on switch for the new Unified Development Code.
All right. Any other staff reports, Mr.
Well, I have a
Swain?
question.
Oh,
No,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Sorry. I missed, Mr. Remedies had a question.
Well, we have the special meeting on the 8th, and we have the documents today to review. If we typically have a month to place something on the agenda and vote on it, and we require a unanimous vote otherwise, how is this different? And this is questions for the board. How is this different than anything else that we typically will place on the agenda? Allow the commissioners time to review and vote on it a month later.
The answer to that is that we don't have a policy that requires the 30 days written down. Number two, this information was actually given out to you a week or two before, after we left City Council on the 10th of January, and discovered that this was necessary through the legal process. So basically, you're getting roughly about 3 weeks, and you have had the information sent to you by email, and it is also posted on the website. And today, you got a hard copy from us in case you don't have that copy printed off.
Yeah, and you say that, but there's been a few meetings ago where we were going to take a vote on something, and it was blocked because it's, no, you guys can't do that. You have to put it on the agenda and vote on it the following month. So how is this different?
It's different because when you get to an agenda and you have an established meeting, if someone on the board says, I want to add an item to the agenda, you have to have a unanimous vote to do so, to add it to that agenda. Not talking about 3 weeks or 30 days later.
Yeah.
That policy only pertains to adding an item to the current agenda that you're at. So if, for example, if I'd come to you and said, I want to add something, or let's say you said you wanted to add an item for discussion, you'd have to have a unanimous vote here to get it on the agenda for that day. This is the same policy that the City Council uses and the same policy that the Parish Commission uses.
I agree, but if we go back and review the video of the meeting, we had a meeting a few months ago. We had an item on the agenda that we had a recommendation come out of a committee. We didn't take a vote on it because you said it must be placed on the agenda and must be voted 30 days. Am I incorrect?
No, you are 100% correct.
Okay, how is this different? Are we going to pick and choose when we enforce this, is what I'm saying?
Okay,
Because this is very inconsistent.
Maybe I'm not explaining it well. The policy that's been approved is when you have an agenda that's already set. It's not listed on the agenda at all.
No, I understand what you're saying.
When you get to that meeting, if a board member wants to add an item to the agenda for that day, there has to be a unanimous vote. When something is sent out to you weeks in advance and it's told to you that there will be an agenda for a special meeting, that's a different animal that has nothing to do with that policy. It's not the same.
It is the same. Because we are, in that case, if we want to delay something, that we said, no, even though it was on the agenda the month before, we can't vote on it today because you need to add this to the agenda and vote on it a month down the road. I'm telling you that regardless of what you say, we are very inconsistent on how we enforce this, and it's to whoever's benefit it's for, of whether we take up the issue or not. So,
well, I disagree because that's not the way the policy is written, and this is a request by the City Council that you take this back up again, as well as a request from the parish that you do the same. So I think we're following procedures and guidelines accordingly, And so therefore, it's a legitimate for y'all to review this on the 8th of February.
Okay, I want to chime in here.
Just for the record, I set the date and time of the meeting.
I understand. This not, the question is, and Mr. Remedies, actually, that item was on the previous month before that month. So it was 2 months in a row. It was on there, listed as an action item on the agenda. And we were told at that meeting we could not act on that at that time. It's my understanding that information presented to us, whether in advance or not, is introduced at that meeting. Unless there was unanimous vote, we could not act on that information introduced at that meeting, because that's the critical time frame, is when it's actually introduced on the official record, not when it's given to us by email or mail. So my interpretation is next week when we meet on Wednesday, unless there's a unanimous vote to vote on the day, it's inappropriate to vote on that day, because that is the official day it's entered into the record that we're going to discuss the item. We're not discussing the item today, so it's not an official part of the record yet.
There is a difference between setting an agenda and adding an item to an agenda when you're at the meeting.
I agree.
The policy is written for adding an item to the agenda at the meeting.
Then we violated that policy twice last fall.
I'm not certain exactly what you're making reference to, and you'd have to show me what it is. But anything that someone has approached us and said at the meeting, let's say Dr. Pennywell said to me, Mark, I want to add an item to the agenda. I've talked to Theron, and then unless Theron says, okay, the item gets to be added before it goes out, say once it leaves my office, that's the official agenda. And so therefore, when you get to the meeting, the whole purpose of that policy was that we didn't have someone throwing something on the agenda at the last second.
Right, that you had to act on at that moment.
But when you're setting the agenda, which is what I do on a monthly basis.
Right.
Once I set the agenda with the concurrence of the chair, that's a set item on the agenda. That's not something that you have to get a unanimous vote on in order to have it on the agenda.
Well, once again, I stand by what I said. It was actually on the agenda 2 months in a row.
I
Could
don't know
not
what-
vote on it the first month, the second
What
month.
was
We
it?
should have, and it was
What was
deferred
the
by
item,
election
so
of
that maybe we
officers.
could explain
Election
it?
of officers for this year.
Okay, but what happened on that one is because talking to our attorney, we realized our bylaws said that you couldn't take that vote until the last meeting of the year.
That was never, ever explained.
Well, that's what I explained that day. I even explained that. I said, the reason we can't do this is because you're out of order based on our bylaws.
The last meeting, we didn't vote on the last meeting of the year. We voted in November.
So I had to reschedule it, and we had to waive the requirement so you could vote on it in November. You were trying to do it we were trying to do it earlier, like October or whatever, and we had to delay it because it was in violation of our bylaws. So we had to reschedule that and make a waiver of the bylaw.
The bylaw specifically states you can only vote for new members only in the month of December.
Yes, sir. That's what was really squirrely.
It's the most asinine thing.
Well, I know, but I didn't create that bylaw.
We do understand, I'm just saying, we do understand that we couldn't say in June, just decide we want to put election of officers on the agenda.
No, sir.
And just do it. So there must be something prescribed to tell us when we do it.
That is correct.
I guess that's what, Mr. Remedies.
Yeah, and because I'm the one that made the motion originally because of the stack of paperwork that was placed in front of us on something that I believe was in that path of I-49 that we were supposed to vote on. That day, I was the one that requested that we have 30 days to review items that we're going to vote on, okay? We passed I'm not sure, a bylaw or whatever the case may be unanimously to have something placed in front of us a month ahead of schedule that would be something that we would place it on the agenda and then vote on it 30 days later, okay? Just because we get something 3 weeks in advance, that's not the spirit and intent of what we voted on. So, because what happens is we get 13 pages of documents, and it might be 5 days, it might be 7 days, but it's not the 30 days that we all agreed that we would take to be able to properly vet something before voting yes or no on it. And this, it's very inconsistent about when we want to comply with this. And if the board wants to make a unanimous vote to vote on it now or at a meeting, that's one thing. But it's selective when we use that only to our benefit, and when we want to ram something through, then we just set a meeting in 10 or 12 days and say, well, we have to vote on it because, so that, there's no rhyme or reason to what we're
The
doing.
unfortunate thing is that there's no written bylaw that says the 30 days. That was a preference. It was an expressed preference to what you wanted, but that doesn't mean it's a bylaw and it's not
But that's
a
not the
rule.
argument that was made before on the other
Well, sir,
topic. So
but-
it's never,
but
see
it's
what I'm
not-
saying?
but
Is
it's
if it
not-
who it benefits depends on the way we vote on things here.
If this board wants to establish that policy, we certainly could do that, but it's not established right now.
Okay, so what policy were you establishing when you said that we were unable to take up a vote on something that was already on the agenda for 2 months?
Because of what I just explained, the bylaw said you have to take the vote in the last month of the year. And I had discussed that with the attorney, and we said we realized we couldn't take a vote on something at that time. So then when we got to November, he told us you just do a waiver as part of your motion, that you waive the rules to allow you to do the election in November. That was what was recommended to do. It has nothing to do with this policy about whether or not something goes on the agenda and you get the full unanimous vote. That's like apples and oranges.
Yeah, well, I understand, but what the problem becomes is we will continue to get, and I'm speaking to the board here, they're going to continue to put things in front of you more than you can vet in the time period and tell you you have to vote on it, yes or no. And that was the problem with the documents that we voted on, another community renewal project, that we did not have time to properly vote on that to.
Well, and in that particular case, what happened was they literally were passing out paperwork at the meeting. I'm sorry. I'll do a request to speak.
Mr. Young?
Yes, thank you. At that meeting, they were putting documents in front of us, wanting us to approve it at that moment, looking at a 40 or 50-page document, and then telling us their back was against the wall for a grant, and if we didn't approve it, they're going to lose the grant. And that's why we came up with this policy about you're not going to dump something on us. And look, I serve on other advisory groups, and then the other one of them's a state advisory group, and we don't allow something to be voted on that was introduced at that meeting. We have to introduce it, and it has to go for the record because people have to know about it. We don't know how many people have seen this 11 pages, and I'll be honest with you, I got to go back and digest what exactly effects and changes this has. And we just found out there's this new interpretation that has been given to us, that the whole reason this is coming back to us and not the city and the parish is we have to vet this out before they do. And so, you take all this in totality, it's just like, okay, we got the document 6-7 days ago, but once again, I've got to go back through and study this thing. How long do we work on the UDC? 18 months, 2 years? And so I just need to make sure when I read over these proposed changes that I'm good to vote for it. I mean, I've already voted for the whole document. I just need to make sure these changes are applicable. So I don't know that I'm going to be ready to vote on it next week.
Mr. Damore, too?
Yeah, I think you're right about the presenting of the community renewal, whatever was put in front of us the day of. But I think that predated Mark coming in.
Well, no, I was here, but it was a surprise to me, and I said, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, it surprised everybody.
And that's understandable. But how long do we really need? And again, we'll go back to 3 weeks is plenty of time for me, maybe not for you, Mr. Remedies,
I'm
and
a
that's
slow
fine.
learner. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, but again, let's not, that's our board that needs to be voting at that and put it in as a policy. And if that's what you'd like to do, I think you should suggest it, and we can see if we can do that.
I want to say something. Hold on.
Ms. Smith? I thought you said you wanted to say.
I do.
Ms. Smith?
Because I remember what Mr. Young and Ron was talking about, that most of the time, and I love community development, I think they're doing a magnificent job. But I agree, most of the time when they do come and present something before us, because I remember what he's talking about. They did say, now you need to vote on this right now, because if not, we're going to lose this grant. And I think that is very unfair. I think that you need to meet with the neighborhoods. You say you're met with the stakeholders, your partnership, but did you do the correct procedures. So I do remember this. I think that we need to follow procedures with all of our site plans and whatever. Okay? Because I know right now, if I'm not mistaken, we did give you that authority with the site plans.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So, I just wanted to say that.
And I would just say for the record, to the board as well, that I certainly can appreciate all perspectives of this. However, I would say nobody was speaking for the board, everybody's speaking for themselves as individuals, and I do the same. It really doesn't matter if it's 30 days, 7, 10, whatever. If I feel, like I've heard voice, it's not comfortable, I think it would be irresponsible to vote on something you're not, because it could be 30 days and you're still not comfortable with it. So I think at the end of the day, all I ask is for us to do whatever we can in our own due diligence to prepare ourselves for whenever the meeting is, in this case, next week. And to the extent that your conscience or your preparation allows you to do so, and you feel it's responsible, and I think we move forward with it. But I do think we've got to keep moving it forward. We followed the rules of how we call a meeting and how we set a meeting. I just wanted to be sure we weren't questioning whether that happened, but I understand the spirit of it is really what's being challenged today, and I have an appreciation for that. All of those things, most of those things predate me. So I just want to say that I think that it would be irresponsible for us to vote on something that we weren't prepared for. So at the end of the day, I hope that everybody will do what's necessary to come prepared on Wednesday to vote on what's before us. Any other staff reports, Mr. Sweeney?
That is all my staff.
Items for future discussion?
No, sir.
All right.
Well, I think the item that I asked, we talked about what I sent you the email on, about the lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we had, I didn't have any information to add to the agenda, so I didn't.
No, that's what the email was giving you the information about what the subject matter would be.
Yeah, I did receive that. I didn't ask him to put it on the agenda because I thought we should hearken to what our council may have to say about that rather than having an open discussion about it. Because at the end of the day, I just didn't think that was I thought we needed to take the advice of our council, and certainly he's here now, but we can, so to the extent that we can speak to it from that perspective, so, but I wasn't sure of whatever else, what perspective we wanted to take on having it, so I didn't just line it out on the agenda.
No, but so I'd like to place that on the agenda for next month.
Oh, sure.
To discuss that, but it's in regards to anytime the commission, at least if I'm involved, if they're going to be named in a lawsuit, I'd like the staff required to notify us within 24 hours of service. Now, if they've not been served, if they've just heard about it,
Right.
that doesn't count. But when you're called by maybe somebody in the media and asking you about a lawsuit that you have no idea even exists, I just want to be sure that everyone doesn't know but you, or everyone doesn't know but me, because it's in all fairness to this. And I'm not suggesting that the staff knew that before when I was called, because it does take a while for service to be performed. But if I just want the understanding of the staff from us, it's laying their expectations out just like I do with my staff. If I'm named in a lawsuit and you get it, I want to know within 24 hours. You can scan it in and email it to us. It's not that hard.
Sure.
That's all that I'm asking for. So I'm asking you to place that on the agenda for discussion and vote for next month. That for that item.
Well, here's what I'd like to do. If you will just in an email state what you recommend that policy to be specifically, and I'll know that's what we're voting on specifically.
No, but that's what my email said. Was specifically what I just said.
I didn't read it like that, so I apologize. I'll go back and look at it.
Okay.
Ms. Cooper?
When we work, I'm on the committee with the procedures and bylaws, we will go, that's where we will go with that. And also, but to be clear, if the media contacts us, we are to direct them to the chair. That is in our bylaws. So you don't need to stress about your answer. All you say is you need to call the chair. He speaks on our behalf to the media, that's in our bylaws.
No, but I think it's a responsibility for them to keep us informed, and that's all that I want to reiterate. Is there is a
I don't think
defined expectation.
anybody disagrees with you, Ronnie.
Yeah, then we can put it in a bylaw, and everybody's happy.
I'm sorry, and I misspoke. I think when I did return the email to you, that's what I said, that I would get it to the appropriate committee and let that committee submit a proposal, proposition for us to actually vote on. So I think that's what we
Okay.
did. So we'll continue in that.
Okay, yeah, next month we'll have a discussion and votes.
Smith? No, we won't.
Yeah.
We may not. It depends on if the committee.
Okay,
I
please
want to
place
be on
it
the
on the
record.
agenda
I want to be on the record that it won't come on the agenda until the committee makes a proposal to us, and when the committee makes a proposal, then, as I was saying, you're certainly welcome to go to the committee meeting as well,
Yes.
so that you can make sure they have the spirit of what you want to say. Once we get that, then that's the way that's what, as the chair, that's the way I want to operate. That the committee gives us a proposal, and then we place it on the agenda, I want to be sure that we don't have committees for no reason. And
No,
we
I
do have a
understand
committee
that,
for it.
but can we say that we'll vote on this in April?
No, I mean, I don't want to be arbitrary.
Well, because conceptually what could happen is they could just lose my request and never vote on it. So I want to put some sort of timeline on but we expect you in 60 days to have something back. I mean, I'm being reasonable.
No, I have no issue with that. I don't want to put that parameter on that particular committee because I want them to do it as soon as they can. And so if we could do it for the next meeting, absolutely. But I don't want to put I think the chairman of that committee is cognizant of what you're asking and will respond to that.
Okay. So we'll leave it on the agenda for next month. and we'll
I
discuss
never
it.
said that.
Okay.
Again, when the committee brings it out as a proposal, when I get the proposal, then we'll put it on the agenda as something that the committee is proposing to the commission. At that time, we'll vote on it. That specifically.
And one thing I just...
Ms. Smith.
Yes, I'm very concerned like Ron. I know I've been, and I'm speaking for myself.
Sure.
I'm speaking for myself, okay? I've been getting calls, letters. You understand where I'm coming from? And it's nerve-wracking to me because what I'm saying, I don't know what's going on. You understand? And I really don't want my name, I'm speaking for myself. I don't want my name put nowhere, okay? Because I'm left sometime, and you know I told you this,
Sure.
in limbo, okay? And I personally feels like we hired a lawyer, and to me, it appears that he could take care of this matter and have us in some kind of, I serve on a lot of boards, and they will abreast us on issues that's going on. And right now, I'm gonna tell you, I, as a board member, left in the dark. When the Times called to me today, I told them no comments. So I found out today, all comments should be referred to the chairman. When they call me and ask and tell you the truth, it's a wonder I didn't tell them they should be referred to you, because you're the lawyer and they are paying you to answer questions. But when I get big old packages like this, and they looking at all of this, you understand I don't share it. But I'm gonna tell you, it's sort of embarrassing, and I'm speaking for myself. I like to know what's going on. I like to be abreast on issues. I may not make a comment, but I'd like to know what's going on. And I want to praise you because you have committees here. And I think all committees should at least bring reports back to the committee, the board members, so that they will know what's going on. I thank you for this theory.
Mr. Young?
I have a couple of things I'd like to talk about.
Oh, hold on. Is this for future discussion, or are we moving to the board member comments?
Future discussion in response to what's been going on as well. I know as an MPC board member, when even before the staff even is notified, because this happens all the time, people look at what is filed at the courthouse and the word gets out real quick. People look at us and they say, what's going on?
Exactly.
And if I haven't been briefed a little,
Exactly.
it makes the MPC board look like they're inept. Okay? Whether it's actually he's received copy or not, it doesn't matter. So if I, in response, contact you as the chair and say, have you heard about this? I would at least appreciate the fact that maybe you've been abreast to it, even though you may not have been officially served or the MPC staff hasn't been served. If we already know it's there, because it makes the MPC look like we don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
And it's an easy punt to say, go see the chair or go see the lawyer. Okay? Without at least us having some basis of knowledge. And until I actually got a copy of the litigation that is before us, I didn't have a clue what was going on.
Exactly.
Okay? So, I don't like being put in the position of looking like I don't know what's going on
Exactly.
with the very board that I've been appointed to represent. And I think there's some due diligence and indifference, at least to bring us to the point where we have a basic understanding and knowledge. Not that we're going to go out and run our mouth, but at least I can say to someone, I can't discuss it, but you're wrong. And to move on with that, okay? Or I can't discuss it because I know what's going on. But to us to just sit around and say, I hadn't heard anything,
Right.
which was a legitimate response, doesn't look well. And I think that's a valid concern to make sure as soon as the information becomes available, the first people that information be disseminated to is the very 9 members of this board who have the responsibility of this agency, or have been that responsibility placed upon their shoulders. So if we don't do that, then we're failing from the very beginning of what our responsibility is, which is represent citizens of Caddo and Shreveport. So that's my first thing. The second thing is, before I get too far, I believe the person who actually has filed the litigation, and I know John Settle, I rode bikes with him years ago, I probably hadn't talked to that man in 5 years, okay? But I believe he's put in a request to speak before we just go from there. The item that I wanted to talk to you about, and I apologize I didn't get with you, but I tried, but I've had a very rough 2 days, was something I want on the agenda as an actual item for voting next month. Not this month, doesn't need to be discussed today, just I'm putting it out there. Our MPC Executive Director is the only one who has a contract in the city of Shreveport and Bossier Parish. He's enjoyed that for, it will be 3 years come October. It has been pointed out to us a lot of times that he's the only one that enjoys that protectionism of the contract. I think 3 years is long enough to operate with a contract. I want it on the agenda as an action item for a vote in the March meeting, not to terminate his employment, but to put him in the same level as the other directors within the city of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. They are at-will employees. Not one condition of his contract would change, not one condition of his benefits will change, nothing in the recommendation that or the motion I will present in March will change. Only that we not renew the contract by the July 1 date. It has to be notified to him by July 1 that we're not going to extend that contract any longer, and I want that on the agenda for the March meeting.
Now, to respond directly to you, what I intend to do is to give that information to the personnel, Operation and Personnel Committee.
Okay.
You're certainly welcome whenever they meet. You have a list of who the folks are, to call a meeting and to actually deal with that. And when, after you've discussed with them, or they've discussed it, that if they bring that back I don't want unilateral things, at least under my watch, just making its way onto the agenda without at least the committee who is put together for that purpose.
I respect that.
And it coming out, and it rather than just being one person. That's
I
just,
will
I'm not
call
saying
for a
that's what
vote.
happened in the past.
I will call for a vote in March,
It's not going to be on the agenda. It'll have to just come out of nowhere if the committee has not. I'm not going to arbitrarily place things on the agenda. I think it's irresponsible when we have a committee structure that specifically speaks to those things.
Right.
Who can, I mean, I don't know what we would be, what our reticence would be, would allow the committee that would represent 3 or 4 of us, talking about exactly what you talked about and making that proposal to the entire body, versus each of us coming up with ideas to put on the agenda just unilaterally. That's the reason for the committee structure. I think the committee structure can work well, and then we will know that we're doing what we're doing together, and at least more than individually coming up with ideas, that we're vetting it among ourselves. So I intend to use the committee structure to place things on the agenda. So I don't know if that speaks to what you specifically desire, but I'm not suggesting that committee is not going to meet soon enough to get that done. They may very well do so.
The committee comes back with a recommendation against that request that I have made to be put on the agenda.
Then you could go to what you were saying you would do, which was to put it on the agenda on any particular meeting you want to, and then you'd have to get a unanimous vote from the body to add that to an agenda.
Back to the 30-day rule. The process
No,
you're
it's
talking
not-
about will
it's
not
not-
get
We don't
this
have a
done
30
before
day.
the
It's
July
not a 30
1
day.
meeting.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying if the committee does not correspond to what you were interested in, or their proposal doesn't correspond to what you were interested in, then what would happen is that it would not make its way to the agenda. However, you have a right as an individual and as a member to say, I'd like to put that on the agenda today, or whatever day it is. We'd have to vote unanimously to add that to the agenda, and then we take it up that way.
Then I go back to the comments Mr. Remedies made earlier, that he was talking about whether you could get it in 60 days or not, and you said you didn't know. And
What is it? I didn't put a date on it.
yeah, I know you didn't put a date on it. I am wanting a date on it because there is a timeline date in order for Mr. Sweeney to know whether or not that contract is going to be extended again.
I think.
And July 1 is fast approaching.
I think a motion and a second by this body, and the majority of it would say to, as he did and as you do, we want X amount of days, 60, 90, rather, but if you ask me unilaterally, my answer is no, I'm not putting 60 or 90 days. But the body, who is really where the authority is vested, can vote, and if the majority votes to put it at 60 or 90, it's a simple procedure. I'm following that. I'm not going to, I cannot say I'm gonna go against the will of the body. I think it's simple as that. I think you get a motion in a second and make it happen. Ms. Cooper.
I just want to say that I'm not aware that there was any effort to hide the lawsuit or that anybody got it late. I think there were emails in our MPC inbox about it prior to service. So I don't appreciate this implication that this has happened. Now I get that you might have concerns it might happen in the future. It did not happen with this lawsuit. My concern hearing y'all today is that you are going to talk to media or people when they call about a lawsuit, and you shouldn't. Read your bylaws. If you are not aware of what's in them, read them. They're not a secret, and they're not even very long.
Well, you're looking at me, but I'm the one that was making the same comment in our last lawsuit. Do not talk to the media. And so, you're preaching to the choir because I was the one, and believe it or not, I had members of this on board chastise me.
Mr. Young.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I apologize, Ms. Cooper.
You finished? Ms. Damore too?
She stated what I was going to say. Thank you.
Mr. Remedies?
I just wanted to see if we could get from Mr. John, since he's here, your interpretation of if a board member is allowed to place something on the agenda, because you frequently see this with other bodies, the council and the commission here, and I don't like the chair being able to send something into a committee and preventing anything from being on the agenda in perpetuity. So without a deadline or without the request of a board member, that's never been done since we've been here, and we frequently see that. Can you provide us with a legal opinion of whether the chair can simply send something to a committee with no timeline and prevent it from being on the agenda from a board member?
I'll be happy to take a look at it.
Okay.
You're going to, again, be referred to your bylaws and what the bylaws say in that regard. I would have to look at them specifically for that issue, but, and I'll be happy to do it if I'm authorized to do it by the board.
Okay. Because I feel like I'm hearing on one hand.
The bylaws, I believe, say you have 24 hours to place something on the agenda, and the chair places it on the agenda.
Okay.
I understand your question. I don't feel comfortable right now giving you an answer to your question without me being able to sit down and review the bylaws and take a look and look at it from your particular standpoint of what you're asking the question. Again, y'all have a bylaws committee because they are kind of, they need to be updated. And that's something that, it very well may be that, yes, the chair can do that. And if y'all don't want it, then you need to go in and change your bylaws and change how that's spelled.
Yeah, because on one hand, we can't, members aren't allowed to place anything on the agenda that maybe you don't agree with, but on the other hand, we're forced to vote
Remedies,
on
are you speaking to the chair?
No, I'm saying.
Here's what I'm saying.
Hypothetically, and the second, I have the floor.
Yeah, but let me say, let's not
but we're
speak to
forced
motive.
to vote on the UDC
Mr. Remedies, let's not speak to
within
motive.
7 days.
Assuming motive from anybody.
No, I'm saying hypothetically. That's what I said, hypothetically. Okay. But I'd be very surprised if if a board member was prevented from placing something on the agenda.
They're not.
Because you could do that in perpetuity, if that's the case. And it prevents us from ever taking a vote or ever placing anything of concern to one of the board members up for discussion.
Let me just say, as a chair, for the record, that is not my intent, and I don't have any wish to operate in the way you're describing.
Exactly,
As
that's
I
my
said to you,
concern. I'm telling you, that's my concern.
I have the floor.
Okay.
And so, as a result of that, the power does not rest in the chair. The power rests in this committee. So any motion, second, and vote overrides any perceived personal agenda that a person might have. I think that's that's why this is a democracy, so that you could in fact do that.
But we can't take a vote on it.
That's why a committee is in place, just like the attorney just said, that if there's an issue, there's a committee that addresses that. Once that committee addresses it, I don't think it's for us to say, well, let's just do it, notwithstanding there's a committee for that, let's just do it as a body. Well, we don't need committees if that's the case. I'm saying if there are committees, I think it's appropriate to allow the committees to operate, bring back to the body, and let's vet things in that perspective.
What committee did the UDC go to when you wanted to place it on the agenda?
What UDC? I wasn't the chairman.
No. The next week, when we're placing this on the agenda, what committee did this go to? Using your same argument.
That came from the chair, which
That's
I have
right.
the authority to do.
What committee did it go through?
It didn't
You're
go through
saying
any
you're sending
committee.
it through committees.
It didn't go through any committee.
So
to
if you
call
agree with it, it
I don't
goes
have
to a committee, but if we agree
with all
with
due
it, it
respect,
does
I
not.
have the floor.
Okay, but
And
I
I don't
never relinquished
with
the
all
floor.
due respect, I have the floor. And let me say to you that as a chairman, it's my responsibility to call a meeting. That's not a committee responsibility to call a meeting. Now, what happens in that is that the board can vote to vote down every one of those bylaws. It's process. It's not preference. It's process. We may not like it, but it is process. I'm not avoiding a process. I believe voting is the way we make decisions. We have a meeting in order to vote. Calling a meeting is not anything you need a committee for. Mr. Colvin.
Yes, Mr. John, you heard a lot of discussion today about requiring 30 days to be on the agenda, notice to get on the agenda. You heard a lot of conversation about going to a committee before it would get on the agenda. I want to ask you a rule of order. I know you're going to research it, but since Mr. Allen brought it up, and I'm pretty certain that Mr. Remedies would second it, would it be out of rule if we go ahead and make that motion to add it to the agenda, get a second, and vote on it today, and when you find out if it's got to go to a committee or not, we'll end up here with it next month?
So you're adding something to the agenda, and I do think that in order to add something to the agenda that's not on the previous agenda, you have to have a unanimous vote.
Not this agenda, the agenda for next month. You said 24 hours.
I believe the chair is correct, and the chair sets the agenda. And if you don't have a process for doing that, it's how the chair wants to set it. I'll be happy to look at that to make sure I'm correct on that.
So none of the board members can put anything on the agenda, what Mr. Remedy says, unless the chair approves it.
Or if the board unanimously approves it. But I will have to look at that and make sure I'm providing you the accurate advice on that.
I speak into the mic. Mr. Young?
One thing I'm going to add is make sure that if we have anybody else who turned any comment cards and would like to speak, we give them the pleasure to speak before the council. And other than that, I defer.
Was that a?
I defer.
Already told him.
Thank you.
All right. Any other items for future discussion? If not, then we'll move to item 28, Chair, Board Members' comments. I have one item that I asked Mr. Sweeney to place on because of something that we've been having discussions about via emails with certain people I just was watching. And I wanted to know, Mr. Sweeney, if you can help me with something, because this is my first rodeo with the MPC, and it's the notion of its travel and regarding its travel. I've heard a lot of stuff said about it just in the wind. And so what I wanted to do is establish whether or not there was something that's being done this year that was inconsistent with any other year. Okay? So I'd ask that we look back as far as perhaps 2010 if you can go back that far to 2010, I want to ask a few questions about that. Number one, do you know the budget, the MPC travel budget from, maybe not that far back, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, last 5 years?
Yes, sir. The travel budget for 2013, when you combine staff and board travel together,
I want them combined together.
would come to roughly about $33,000. 2014, that amount was about $34,000. 2015, when you combine the two together, the amount was roughly about $44,000. 2016, the amount was about $31,000. 2017 budget is actually about, hold on 1 second here to make sure I'm getting this correct. That actually, the amount for 2016 was about $41,000. So 2017, the amount is actually about $31,000. So it's about a $10,000 drop from last year.
From this year to, from last year to this year?
That is correct.
A decrease of about $10,000.
That is correct.
So about 25% roughly.
That's correct.
All right. Now, the other question was about travel. The staff travels, and you have a travel budget for the staff?
Yes, sir.
And how many people typically go to, I think what was in question is this APA conference?
Yes.
How many people from the staff typically attend the APA conference?
If you look at the number of people that attend, and if you want to go back to 2013, I can on that.
Yes, let's go back to 2013.
In 2013, we had a total of 7 people attending the national conference in Chicago, and that was 3 board members and 4 staff members. In 2014, there was no attendance to the Atlanta conference, and the purpose of that was because in 2014, it was decided that no one would go to the national conference because they wanted to conserve the funds in effort to complete the search for a new executive director and to pay for the relocation of that individual to the community. So there was no attendance except at the state conference, I believe, that year.
Okay.
In 2015 was Seattle conference.
Okay.
We had 4 staff members and 3 board members attending, and that was a total of 7 attendees in 2015. In 2016, we had, this was to Phoenix, we had 3 staff members and 2 board members, a total of 5 people attending that conference. In 2017, the number would be, as proposed today, is 3 board members, and in this case, 5 staff members with a total of 8 people attending.
Right. So people have so you've had staff go to all of the national meetings?
Yes, sir.
What about board members?
Board members typically always at least 2 to 3. The average is between 2 to 3 board members that do attend for ongoing continuing education.
So in 2013, you said it was where?
It was to Chicago, and that was 3 board members and 4 staff members.
And so it was 3 board members?
That's correct.
2014, you said it didn't go?
That is correct. We only had attendance at, we had 1 board member, I believe, attending the state conference, or we actually had 1 staff member attending a conference in Atlanta. That was only 1 individual.
All right. In 2016, what, 15?
Mm-hmm.
15, where was it?
It was in Seattle. We had 3 board members and 4 staff members, total of 7.
All right. And then in Phoenix last year?
It was a total of 5 board members, a total of 2 board members, 3 staff members, for a total of 5 attendees.
All right. So what you're saying is that the budget is decreased this year over the last several years.
Yes, sir.
And that has been a precedent of board members attending meetings in Seattle, Chicago, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Atlanta, those places over the last 5 years as well.
That is true.
Because if you misread it, sometimes you can read things,
Yes.
and if you misread it, and I'm just talking about stuff that's public, But it would make it seem like going to the APA conference this year was a wise idea, or maybe people who don't get a chance to go anywhere were getting a chance to go somewhere for the first time and travel. But I saw that, and I just wanted to be sure that I was not inconsistent in what I thought with what has happened in the past.
That's correct.
That's the questions that I have. Other board members?
I have one.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, Mr. Sweeney, I was listening to Theron and you giving some feedback down through the years. I'm just going to make a suggestion here. I think that all board members need to have a scope of what he is asking for. I think annually it should be some kind of budget to abreast us as board members. You understand where I'm coming from? If you have a budget committee, in all budget committees that I serve on, they're going to bring an annual report to us as board members. Now, you may talk about it in the executive section, but you're supposed to bring it to the board. And I heard you say you did?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I must was absent.
When we did our budget meeting in August, that's when I explained how many people were going to go to New York and how many people were going to New York.
I heard that. I know about this year.
Right.
And I read it and I heard too much about it this year.
I understand.
You understand? Theron, you was not here. I'm talking about in the years in the years in the past.
Right.
Okay.
And I can
That's
I can only speak to the budget of 2015 and 16 and 17 because that predates me. So we had to go back and do the research. I don't know if my predecessor explained that to you in previous years. I have no idea. But I know that since I've been here, every time we've had our budget executive meeting and then we've had our budget board meeting, I always tell you what we're doing with the travel, where we're going, and how many board members and staff members are going. And if y'all approved it in a different way, then we would change it.
I'm just talking about a budget in June because what I've been hearing is that because of our budget, we have people that's been here 20 years, 16 years. And I was thinking in terms of them.
Right.
You understand? They've spent the bulk of their life here working. And that's why I'm saying that we need to know just a little more about the budget.
And that's why I present it the way I do, which is in detail. I give you a copy of the budget and an explanation.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Damon, too? You're welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little faction to this. You're right, at least one, an average of 2 to 3 every year it's gone since I've been on the board, and that's been 6 years. And actually this is the premier planning conference of our country. And the people that, the board members and the staff members that have been able to attend have come back, including myself, in glowing feedback of how much they've learned, how much they can apply and go forward with the planning of our fair city. I think it's very important that we have an educated board and keep up with the standards of practice and what's successful in other cities. And if you have a chance, I would encourage anybody is to look it up on the website and you can see all the classes. Not one person could attend all these classes, but you can divide and conquer, and that's what we've done before. And our last people that came back, and I didn't go last year, but the few that did, I think Mr. Allen, or Mr. Ramirez was lucky enough to go. They came back and really said how much they learned. So I think our city deserves well-educated boards and staff to further our plans and growth of our city.
Thank you. Mr. Remedies?
No, I just wanted to say that I agree with you 100%. If you're going to try to take your community to the next level, it's very important for you to learn how other cities are making themselves successful. And when we came back and Alan and I discussed with the board that we learned during these conferences that we went to were things that kept them out of trouble, things that learning from the others' mistakes, and you can't get that necessarily over the internet. So it's very important to interact with people from around the country that are in your same position.
All right, Ms. Dave, too?
No, I'm done.
Young, Mr. Young?
I want to concur with what Ronnie said. One of the first conferences I went to, we heard about a case in Miami about a group home. It was extension of family, and under HUD you could not discriminate. And it was ironic, we came back and we had one agenda the next month, which we said, go away, you don't belong here, because we really have no jurisdiction over it because it's a federal housing thing. They're classified as extension of family. That alone was a very worthwhile. I think Miami ended up paying about $2.5 million in that suit or something around there. And so that, the only other thing I have off that subject real quick, in our binder you have a copy of bylaws, you can throw it in the trash because it's not accurate. And that's what I was referring to. And so I went to Mr. Johns because I was wanting to know where that particular clause was at, and I found out the bylaws that we have in our binder book are out of date.
And again, I didn't get to review those, so
you can just look at the format and tell they're out of date, because there's nothing in there about that section.
I don't have a copy of those.
We do need to get an updated version. It's sent to everybody expeditiously. So when we do make a comment, we have a basis to work off of, because these are not accurate. And even though this date is post that date of his, that one has other language in it that this one doesn't. So I don't know actually which one was the latest adopted version. And I'm sure the staff will be more than graciously to get us a copy of those so we can have an updated version of it. Because decisions we make and comments we make is based on the document that was given to us. Given this document, there's no end in here it says about a December meeting to do for personnel.
It just says last meeting of the year.
Not even this one, where I was given this version in this one and wasn't updated in my binder. Because I just pulled this out of my binder. So
we'll be more than willing to give you an updated version. What's happened over the last several years is we've sent you emails about what's been added, but you've not seen it all in one spot. And I think that's an appropriate request, and we can certainly get that together for you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to, one more comment, if you may, Chair. Yeah. Okay, just one more comment going back to the education and travel. I just think, I think I want to put out there that despite all the benefits we got, the board and the staff got at the conferences, we were cognizant and we recognize this is a challenging budget year for the city and for the, and we did decrease our budget as stated before. So I just want to make sure that people know that it is very beneficial. It is the premier conference, but we did decrease our budget. And I just wanted to make sure that they knew that.
All right. Mr. Colvin.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Got a motion and a second to adjourn.
Well, we have someone.
Hold on, questions?
I believe you had requests from the public to speak.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I just have to ask
But I know you're on a clock, okay?
We're going to change this meeting back to 1 o'clock before I get off of it.
Oh, goodness.
We would be remiss if we did not take care of our
Can you
constituents.
rescind your motion?
I do.
Okay. All right, any other board member comments?
Well, I had one
Mr.
real
Rodriguez?
quick. It was stated earlier that any requests from the media were sent to the board, but I read in the bylaws it says commission members may represent their individual positions to the media and general public, but shall not speak nor represent the commission's views. The executive director may report the actions of the commission. So I think something was stated earlier, and that's
I don't know
word
which
for
version
word.
you're reading, so don't forget which version.
Well, I'll make you a copy of this one.
So we got, that's the bylaw committee. We need to take care of this. Right. Any other comments from board members? There's a request to speak from a John Settle.
If we don't, Mr. Young is just gonna have to get over there.
Yeah, just 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much time does it take?
3 minutes?
10 minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. My name is John Settle. My home address is 33 Tealwood. I'm going to try to make this in 3 minutes, but it may go over. Number one, I enjoyed seeing the interaction between you and the staff person. I think y'all should remember that y'all supervise this person. Y'all weren't elected to office, you were appointed, but you supervise this staff. And I think that's important. When I go to council meetings and commission meetings, commissioners and councilmen have no problem in questioning what the staff is or is not doing or disagreeing with them. I kind of got the feeling that the chair did not want anyone to question Mr. Sweeney or to disagree with him. And I hope y'all don't give up that right, because y'all supervise him. Y'all hire him, you fire him. And I think if you do give that right up, and I know you're enjoying this, Mr. Martin, then you're risking funding by the city council and the commission. Y'all need to realize y'all make some money on fees, but your main budget is from those two governing bodies. And the same package that I gave to you today, I'm going to give to those people as well. So I do hope that you'll exercise your rights of supervision. Secondly, two things came out to me today that I wasn't going to talk about. Why are people getting notice on a Saturday before a Wednesday on a zoning matter? Can't y'all do better than that? Can't your staff do better than that? How would you feel if you were just Joe Blow, not enlightened here, and you get a letter on a Saturday that something's going to happen major in your neighborhood for a meeting on Wednesday, and you're a blue-collar worker or even any kind of worker, and you've got to take off from work? I really think your staff could do a better job on that, and I really think you should address that, because I think the council and the commission would be concerned about it. Another thing, I hope that this development on Christian down in near Austin, I hope it does go to the Historic Preservation Committee, because the eyesore duplex on Fairfield, y'all may remember that did not go to the Historic Committee. I think, hopefully y'all know where that is, the duplex on Fairfield that's causing, and that did not go to the Historic Committee, which I think is another failure of your staff. Two things I want to point out. The issue not really is how many of y'all go to New York City. The issue is what this gentleman told the council, why he was sending 3 board members to New York City. I was here at the work session, and it's online, and y'all can look at it. And I've also transcribed it verbatim, and it's in your package. But your executive director said he had to send 3 board members to New York City to maintain board certification. That's his exact language. I believe that's false. I know it's false. There's a statute on that. As a taxpayer, it concerns me when any public employee, much less the executive director of an organization, deliberately or unintentionally or maybe out of ignorance.
Mr. Settle, the time has expired. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, well, oh, I'm so sorry. I heard you say right to supervise. And Theron, and I just call him Theron, I think he is doing a magnificent job presiding. But I think each one of the board members, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we know that we are Mr. Sweeney's supervisor and his boss. I want to clear that up. We really know that. And I'm speaking for myself. I've been knowing you for quite some time. You know that. And, oh yes. Now you correct me, Mr. Sweeney, if I'm wrong. I've heard you say that we really, for its notification of the homeowners, that it's not a must, that we send out letters to notify them. And I want him to correct me.
because I'm a firm believer that all citizens should know what's coming into their neighborhood. Now, am I right? Will you speak to that?
Yes, ma'am. State law doesn't require a letter notification, but we do it as a courtesy. 99.9% of the time, those letters go out on time. Every once in a while, we get a glitch in the postal service, or someone makes a mistake sending them out, and we have to send them out a second time. And in this situation, the letters went out late, not on purpose, but once again, that is a courtesy. It's not a state law. And we continue that courtesy, and we have no intentions of ever not doing that courtesy.
Mr. Remedies?
I would like to ask, I was going to reiterate the fact that it was a courtesy and not state law, but what other concerns do you have that you brought today?
I'll make these quick. One, the transcript there, the justification to the city council, I think it was a false justification. And I think that's a key issue as far as going to be the credibility of your executive director with the council in the future. I'm not on council, but I know that they rely on him each week for zoning questions on the UDC. The other issues, you have a lawsuit, that's something for you to discuss in executive session. Lawsuit pretty much in English, and I probably would not have filed it if I'd ever gotten an answer from Mr. Sweeney. When I got this part that said less than $3,000, and then finally I get this that shows over $80,000, I asked him to explain the discrepancy. I never got an explanation, and therefore I filed a public records lawsuit, which any citizen has a right to do to find out why there was a discrepancy. So I think that that's part of your supervisory position. I know you can discuss it with your counsel in executive session. Lastly, I don't know what your bylaws say, and I'll make a public records request for that, but it would bother me if y'all give up your rights to talk to the media and everything has to go through the chairman. Of course, it's your parade, but I really think that you're not elected, but you are appointed. And as a duty, you have a responsibility. I think the citizens of Caddo Parish, the 5 Mile, and the city of Springfield. I hope you don't advocate your rights to speak to the media on matters, but that's your call. So I hope that you might want to consider on 8 February an executive session to discuss the lawsuit. If not, you probably will each be served with a subpoena. I know that some of you work out of town frequently, so please keep the 27th of February open, because presently I'm contemplating serving subpoenas probably at your next meeting or thereabouts. I don't know where everybody lives. I think I know where one board member has a home, but I think it may be important that you might be in court on the 27th